Hey folks, welcome to Fresh Produce. I'm Pete from BTI. Today I want to take a deep dive into the brand new Sidekick hub from E13. There's a ton going on with this hub, a lot of discussion around it out there in the media, so let's really dig in and see what makes this thing tick. Starting out with just the options available, we've got front hubs, either the SL version in 28 hole and only 15 mil boost axle, or we've got their standard in either 28 or 32 hole drilling. And this one comes with end caps for either 15 or 20 mil boost. All right, other than that, those are pretty straightforward. Really, the rear hub is the special part here. If you haven't heard much about this thing, the key design goal with the Sidekick hub was to allow the rear wheel and the suspension to move freely during bumps on a suspension bike without getting the chain to move and impart those forces to your feet. Now there's some other companies doing this, O-Chain being the most famous. On the O-Chain system, the chain itself is actually moving quite a bit, and then that force is isolated from the rider's feet at the spider. On the Sidekick hub, things are a little different. The rotation is isolated all the way back right at the hub, so in most cases, the chain's not going to be moving as the suspension cycles. So you can see there's basically a little bit of free float here before the hub is engaged. What's unique about this is it's always the exact same amount. Always in this setting, 18 degrees of float. No matter if we just went over a click, it's still the same amount of float before you engage again. On a traditional low engagement hub, it could be different depending how far you went past that last click. All right, let's dive into some of the detail, dive into the inside and really take a look at what makes this thing unique. Pretty easy thread off axle ends. Okay. Axle comes right out. Before we go too far, you can really see the hub shell on this is quite big right next to the drive side flange. So on the inside, you can see they actually fit a really massive bearing right under the flange and right up against the free hub on this one. So gonna add a lot of durability to that bearing itself. And then the drive ring sits inside of the bearing, kind of right behind where the flange is on the outside. So kind of a unique look, and it adds to the durability in that way. All right, now we're looking at the real important stuff inside. A couple of important things to note. First of all, the pawls on this one are sprung pulling in toward the axle. On every other pawl hub out there, they're pushing out. So that's super unique and one thing that sets this apart. So they're actually not touching the drive ring at all while you're coasting. What is touching is this one little tiny pawl out here. This one is going to touch the drive ring and kind of be fluttering along. It has a pretty light spring on it. And you can see that there's this set amount of movement that's happening before that engages and pushes up the other pawls. Okay, so as you're coasting along, you just have one fluttering on the drive ring. These are not engaged. Once you start to pedal, that little pawl is engaged and pushes under the other three so that they are now all engaging the drive ring and really able to handle a ton of force through the pedals, through the chain, right onto the hub and cassette. So this pusher piece, red piece, is super key, and a very unique part about this is it actually is adjustable. So you can see there's a little arrow here matching up with 18 degrees of float or movement on that one. You can just lift this ring and switch it into a 15 degree mode or a 12 degree mode. So you can tell there's actually less movement there, and it's just based on the size of these pushers and kind of the timing of the pawls around the circle. But it's so easy to make this adjustment. You could pull your wheel off the day you're going to the bike park and swap into, the wide mode. You're going to prioritize suspension movement that day. You're going to do a trail ride with a little more technical climbing. Maybe flip that around to the short 12 degree float mode. It's very easy to make this adjustment, and I actually think it's feasible to change on a ride basis, basically. All right, let's get this thing back together. while we're on that note of, maybe where different amounts of float work for different types of rides, it's really important to point out this hub is not meant for every rider in the mountain bike world. I saw quite a few comments out there recently about the market is pushing us toward high engagement hubs last year, and now we've got this low engagement hub. How do I make sense of this? I think the really important point to note is the rider use that these are aimed at. High engagement hubs surely are going to be better for a technical climber, a cross-country rider, someone who's focusing on ratcheting up technical moves and wanting those pedals to engage quickly with the chain as they're going through, ready to impart your force through the wheel. The Sidekick hub is really aimed at someone who's much more gravity focused and wants to get the most out of their bike and suspension going down the hill instead of up. No reason you can't pedal this up the hill, but all that added movement maybe means your pedals move more before you get the wheel to move as you're going up the hill. I think this hub makes a lot more sense for enduro riders who maybe are riding up a smooth fire road and then really prioritizing the way down. So keep that in mind. Now, before we go too far, let's move on to the complete wheel system here. We've got a variety of different wheels coming. This happens to be the Sylvan wheel, kind of their more trail, all mountain oriented. It's got the regular Sidekick hub on there and the race carbon all mountain rim. This rim has been around for a little while. It's an asymmetric carbon rim, hookless wall, overall, medium weight wheel with this built around that Sidekick hub. We've also got some of their new downhill and enduro wheels built on a brand new rim with a whole bunch more flex characteristics built into it. So the goal for the whole wheel system is just to add comfort and compliance to your ride. Starting at the hub and, reducing the pedal kickback to your feet, and then also the rim flexing in a compliant way to reduce forces through the whole bike. So we're super excited to get these in. I think it's a pretty big step forward for E13, an exciting tech to talk about. If you'd like to try any of the kickback product on your own bike, make sure you ask at your local bike shop and tell them BTI sent you.